So real quick, had one question. I assume this is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 24. It says, what does this mean? 28 and 24. Can we read that real quick?
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 24. The Lord shall make the rain of the land powder, and dust from heaven shall it come down upon thee, until thy be destroyed.
All right, so that's food deserts right there. That's what that's going into. So no rain, all right. The crops dry, ground dry, wind blowing the dust falling from the sky. That's what that's going into. So now you can't plant your seed. It's dry ground. It's not going to be able to grow to receive the nutrients that it needs to produce food for you and your people. And now what you going to have to do? Go somewhere else. Go to your enemies. You're not going to be able to use your land to produce food to feed your own people. All right? I got a hand in the back.
Yeah, you was going over a question before.
What was it? You remember?
Yeah, about growing in the spirit and then preparing for the new ways that Satan's gonna attack you.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll finish that. This one over here. That was a good question too. Also from in that same vein, there's an app. My rib sent this to me that you can use. This is for the brother or the sister that has people in Kenya. They have bad internet connection. You can only send emails. So you can take the classes and you can go to this website. It's called www.nott.ai. It's a what's AI stand for? Artificial intelligence website. And they'll take the class, you can upload it, and then they'll convert it to text. So they'll pretty much transcribe that class for you, and you'll have the words written out. All right, so website that does that. And then you can take that and email it to them, and then they can watch the class that way. So there is a website that does that. All praise to the Most High. So just Google it. 5 best ways to transcribe YouTube videos to text in 2023, and you'll see 5 sites that come up right there. All right. Yeah, all praise. I didn't know either. All praise to the Most High. All right. So the question we was answering was any advice concerning growing in the spirit and God allowing Satan to get craftier and wiser. Seems like I have to go even harder. So you will. You know, the scriptures say that evils are going to increase in these last days. And as evils increase, what do we have to do? We got to increase, right? And that's going to start with us gathering together, right? That's going to start with us coming together in Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 1. Can you read that?
Says Zephaniah 2:1, right?
2:1, yes, sir.
This is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 2 and verse 1. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired.
Read on.
Before the decree being forth, bring forth before the day pass, as the chaff before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you.
Right, the fierce anger of the Lord. So in these last days, the Lord is going to he's going to put his anger out there, his rebuke, his wrath. We don't know in what form that's going to come. All right. And if we're not in the spirit, then we're subject to that even more than we would be if we being in the spirit. But being in the spirit, does that make you resolved or completely exempt from the wiles of the devil? Nah, I don't. So when we gather together here, what do we learn? That's why we pass out these cards, right? So you can ask your questions and so that you can get built up, so that you can receive counsel, right? So that you can find out how to maneuver in this world, to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. How do I do that in today's time? I got to work. I got to provide for my family. I got, I have to, I only get a certain amount of time on the job. How do I keep the commandments? How do I deal with my children when this is going on? I know the scriptures say this, but how do I apply it, right? Only way we're going to learn those things is if we are gathering together in these last days, all right? And get Sirach chapter 35, I think it's verse 12, 37 and 12. Try that. We read 27 and 12 all the time. Is that it? 37 and 12. Can you read that?
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 37 and verse 12.
So in these last days, we got to make sure we're doing this in the vein of Zephaniah chapter 2. Read what you got.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 37 and verse 12. And the council...
37 and 12.
37. Okay, got it. Okay. This is the books of Sirach, chapter 37 and verse 12. But be continually with a godly man.
You got to read it. Read it strong.
But be continually with a godly man.
There you go.
Whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord.
This is wisdom of God right here in these last days. Why we got to be continually with a godly man or a godly sister? Because that's going to help us stay the course. It's like guardrails for us. It's easy for us to go off to the left or to the right or to entertain these conversations or thoughts. But when you're with a godly man whom you know to keep the commandments, is that what it says? Read it again from the top.
But be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord.
Come on.
Whose mind is according to thy mind.
Whose mind is according to thy mind. That's important. Why? Because we all study and teach and agree to the same thing. We have the same counsel here to help resolve our problems, to resolve our issues, so we can be in one spirit and one mind and one body, right? That's encouraging for us. It's a breath of fresh air, because out there it's just, it's toxic, right? It's going to cause you to become weak. It's going to affect your immune system. This is how you build it up. What we're doing right now is how you build it up. So in these last days, how much more should we be coming together? We should be seeing more and more and more of these seats filled up every week throughout the rest of the year, to the point where we got to have 2 classes, 3 classes, 4 classes, right? We have to, right? We got to be forced out of the building at that point. That's what should be happening in these last days. Why? Because evil is continuing to increase. It's continuing to increase. So how do we combat that? By coming to the school, by being continually with a godly man to keep the commands, pushing the truth. We got to blitz more. We blitzed, I don't know, maybe 12 cities last year, 12 states last year. Well, this year, we can't just do 12. We did 30 days of camp last year. We can't just do 30 this year. So every year, we got to do more and more and more, because the evil is doing more and more and more and more. So that's how you're going to combat that in these last days, all right? Finish that out.
And will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry.
Right, we'll have compassion with you. Right? Things are not always going to be right. That's where we receive the sorrow in our minds often. We want to afflict ourselves with sorrow, right? But when you have a brother or a sister there that can listen to you and make sure that you stay in the scriptures, because we need regulators. We need people to kind of help us stay, moving in the right direction, so we don't get distracted by all these distractions that's in this world today, right? So if you know that you're with a godly man, that's going to keep the commandments, that's going to sorrow with you, that's going to be there for you. You ain't got to call mama and tell her all your business is going on, right? You ain't got to call your auntie or your uncle or your cousin. I'm talking about those that's not in the truth, right? Because that's what some of y'all do. Still depending upon the world to make you feel better. Still depending upon the world to bring you up, they can't exhort you. They can kind of just nurture, feed the evil really that's inside of you. They don't know how to fix you. They can't correct you, can't counsel you. They can't do those things for you. So we shouldn't be dependent upon those people for that. We should be dependent upon each other for that, right? We should be seeking counsel up. So in these last days, we are not taken over by the devil, right? Like a roaring lion, he walking around here seeking whom he can devour. That's what scriptures say. So if we out here and just not paying attention, we not with godly men, we with men in the world, we are an easy target. We are an easy target. All right. So that's what you got to do. Congregate. Cap always said all the time, what's the best defense? Congregate. You got to congregate. We can go through scriptures all day. You can read the whole Bible at home. But you by yourself, all right, when you finish the Bible, Revelations chapter 22, verse, how many verses in there? 21 verses, 22 verses. Then what you going to do when you close the book? Who's there with you to make sure you do everything that you read? Congregate, right? Communicate, speak often. All of that is a part of keeping your spirit right in these last days. So that's what I'll say to you as far as Satan getting crafty and wiser. You got to get crafty and wiser that way by congregating, communicating, staying with a godly man.
Get Baruch 4:28. I like the point you were bringing out as the evils are multiplied in the earth. We got to multiply our righteousness. This is the scripture to go with that. Read that. I'll read it. I don't want to take up too much. Baruch chapter 4, verse 28. It says, "For as it was your mind to go astray from God, so be returned 10 times more." All right, so that's what we got to do. We got to seek the Lord 10 times more. You thought you went hard last year, go harder this year. You think you're going harder this year, go harder next year. All the way into the kingdom come.
All praises to the Most High. So we're going to take a little break. We got about 5 minutes. I want to make sure that you can go to the bathroom, stretch a little bit, get ready for the bishop's class. He's coming on very soon. Just make haste so you can get back in your seat. So we don't want to miss the prayer. So watch out for that, all right? All right, shalom.
What is a nation? Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family.